Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January 3rd, 2024 edition of the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. Happiest of New Year's to everyone. I'm Greg Chris. Welcome to the show. We got a ton of stuff to talk about tonight. A lot of stuff going on. It's been here a while since we've been here, so we need to get caught up. But we got several topics we want to cover tonight. We'll be covering the Big 12's bowl performance. We'll be covering of course, WVU's bowl performance, which was outstanding. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the college football, the predictions for the championship game, the CFP, the way it played out in the semifinals, and then some of the other games I think we'll probably talk about as well. We also have our local resident expert on to talk about the transfer portal, WVU's recruiting. So we got a number of things we want to get covered tonight. We got a number of guests that are going to be coming on. We'll tell you about those here in just a minute. But first, I want to bring in my good friend and co-host, Mr. Frank Fear. Welcome him to the show. Hello, Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Greg. You know, Kathy Fear and I were talking last night that we got ready to turn on the TV to watch bowls. And guess what? There weren't none.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. That's not, so what I watched last night was I watched U-Pike, where my son coaches, play basketball last night. So I did have something to watch last night. I told my brother, I said, what are we watching tonight? There's nothing, no football on. I said, there's be some basketball games, but it is Wednesday, so I don't know what kind of games we're going to get. So yeah, it's a rough time right now. So anyway, got a great show lined out tonight. We got Randy Fletcher, of course. We'll talk about the transfer portal, our recruiting. It's going to be fun to talk to him here. What's going on with all that? I know I try to keep up with it, but I have a hard time, and I know Randy does a great job with that. We also have Mr. Daryl Prue with us. Daryl's going to be on here talking a little bit about the basketball team, the recent game with Ohio State, and other things to do with WVU basketball, as well as I see Keith Hawkins just got in the back room. So Keith's going to join us here in a little bit. Just a variety of things, including some high school sports as well. And Frank, I'll let you kick it off, get our first guest on here. I just want to say before I give it to you, Daryl Prue, when I was younger, back in the day, watched him play all the time. He was a baller. Had him on my show. We talked about that smooth shot he had and that stroke that he has. But he's got a lot of good insight into all things WVU, but mainly basketball. And I'll let you introduce him.
There's the man. Hey, great to see you, Daryl. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Frank. Thanks, Greg. Nice seeing you again, both of y'all.
Sir.
You know, just great. One of the things that we were talking about this before the show started with this theme of then and now, we get a chance to bring guys like you back on the program, and it's just so great. And you know, for those fans out there that are younger and didn't see Daryl play, Greg and I both did, and I went back and looked at stats today, and before the show, Greg said, he's the smooth shooter, and he is. You know, I looked at these data. They've got to be right. That you hit over your career 60% of your shots at West Virginia and 50% from 3 points.
Only took 2 shots, Frank. 2 threes.
Pardon?
I was 1 for 2.
Only took 2 threes. You shouldn't have told that, Daryl. Keep that to yourself.
I'm gonna stick to it. But I only took 2 shots, Frank.
Well, the beauty of that is that the media department does a great job of stats. But one thing you did that I know for sure is that when you left WVU, you were the Mountaineer stats leader. That's been surpassed since. But you were a team player. And I'll tell you what, the thing I remember, you probably remember this, I'm sure, Greg, is that 22-game win streak your senior year. And it started against Mount St. Mary's in December. It just kept on growing and growing and growing. And I grew up near where Wolf grew up, our good friend Wolf, we miss him dearly, in Western New York. And so we were near St. Bonaventure. And I remember I had to teach that night. Can you believe this? Back in 1989 when they were playing Bonaventure at the Riley Center. Remember that place? It's still there.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
And I couldn't listen to the game but I made sure I got the score afterwards. You guys beat Bonaventure and went on until Temple stopped that at 22 games. And then you did great in the tournament, beat Tennessee first round, and then unfortunately got hit by Duke. One of those games that Duke played about 50 miles away from its campus. But you had a great career. For those of you who don't know this, Daryl's in the WVU Sports Hall of Fame. We got 2 Hall of Famers on the screen there. I'm not. So these other 2 guys are in the Hall of Fame. But,
and I didn't shoot any threes.
And Daryl's going to be with us on a regular basis to talk WVU basketball. So we're pleased because he's got such an analytic mind, not just a great player, and also really into player development. So do you want to say a few words about what you're doing these days, Daryl?
Right now, I'm just working in DC, but I do a lot of training. Not a lot. I have a couple of big kids I'm working with here, and I have a couple of kids in college and overseas, and one of them WVU is going to play against in January 20th. I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna come down because if I don't have a ticket, I might have to sit in the wrong area, and I don't want nobody getting mad at me. My big guy, Hunter Dickerson, he plays with Kansas now. I have a junior that's 7 foot that I'm working with at Bullet School. He just came over from Germany, 17 years old. He's going to be a pretty good player too. So I've been doing that, and I got a couple of kids, around the area that I'm working with here and there.
Did you guys, when you played, I'm just curious because I know my son does it through coaching and all that, have this individual help out there that you could get? I just don't remember that as I come up through school.
No, that the first time I started doing really individual stuff was, we did it in practice, but we didn't do it on our own. So when I first went to Brazil, that's where I learned how to start being a pro. I had a guy, we used to go to the gym every morning. We didn't have practice in the morning, so we'd go get shots up, do work on different things, and and I learned how to be a pro from them. They were doing that stuff, way before us. It was hard getting gyms coming out of the city of DC. It was like, even if I was outside, I want to shoot by myself. Somebody always coming to shoot. You want to shoot, so you can't be rude. You know what I mean? Like they don't understand that you want your space. And then when I did find a gym and somebody else want to come in and shoot, like it was the only ball there. So it was kind of hard. It was kind of hard to just get that kind of work. And when I stopped playing, I used what I've learned to help guys, reach levels that, beyond what they were capable of at the time.
Right. I know I've tell my son over and over again, he coaches college basketball, and he actually played for me in high school. And I used to tell him all the time when I was in school, if somebody would open a gym for us, we go nuts because nobody opened gyms. You didn't have a gym to go play in, And I said, now it's expected that people get that training. I think it's fantastic what you're doing, and I love the fact that you get to go in and help those guys progress and get better and get ready for the next level. I think that's awesome, and I've watched a lot of that, and it's great stuff. Great stuff. I'm glad to see you doing it. Let's just jump over to WVU now, Daryl. They just played Ohio State. I haven't talked to you or seen you for quite a while, but what's your thoughts on this WVU basketball team? I think we all have our personal feelings about it, but what's your thoughts on their recent game with Ohio State? And then they got a big game coming up with Houston. Give us your intake and your thoughts. I know you pay close attention, know a whole lot more about it than I do. What's your take?
Well, I thought they looked better than they did against the Drexel game, and then there was another game. They looked different. And that's because Farrakhan and Battle played. They're much more athletic. I don't know if Frank remember in the summertime, I was like, I think Battle is the one. This is before they got Farrakhan. I never saw Farrakhan. I thought Battle was Big 12 talent, because of his athleticism. I think the offense was a little dry. It's nothing. It was it was the same thing. It was the same plays they ran last year. It was nothing different.
Right.
They I think Farrakhan and Battle, they shoot you out the game, then they'll shoot you back into it. There's nothing on the inside. I like the foreigner. What's his name? Szynski or
he's had different names on his uniform, so I'm not ever sure what his name is.
yeah. He's good. He plays at his pace, but that's going to bother him more when he plays in the Big 12.
Right.
The point guard is good. Kerr, he settled him down when he started playing. He was, if he was playing last year, that'd been a different team. But it's and it's a lot. There's a lot of moving parts, and Josh is trying to do the best he can, but there's a lot of moving parts with this.
Yeah.
Watching it, and I think you mentioned there the offense being a little vanilla, a little stagnant at times. I think one of the complaints a lot of people had about Coach Huggins was the offensive stuff. It just wasn't up to standards, up to date, and it seemed like we lost some players because of the style we played. And of course, and he showed the ability to change when he went to West Virginia. Obviously, he did something totally different out of his realm there. But I really think that a lot of people thought that with Josh coming in, even though he coached under Hugs, I think a lot of people felt like things were going to be, I don't know if modernized is the right word, but the offense was going to be a little bit different, a little more movement, a little more screens, that sort of thing. And it don't seem like we're quite there yet. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, it's I thought, when I was coaching at Georgetown, when and Huggy got the job, Coach Thompson was kind of scared to play against him because he was a good coach. He said he was a very good coach. He didn't really want, because you had the Big East, you mark down the teams you want to play against. You know what I mean? So I marked down as a coach West Virginia because of the change, but the change for him was good, but he made Joe Alexander a little tougher. They played a little harder, you know what I mean?
Right.
But then he had a group that didn't play hard. Then he went back to his style. I think he got away from his style. And I think offensively he got away from his style because he used to do that little 5 out and they used to screen it. The ball goes to the corner. The guy throws it to the corner, goes to screen at the elbow and they roll around. They stopped doing that. But he had better players too. He had Kevin Jones, he had Deshaun Butler, he had, John Flower coming off the bench. So he had a whole lot of different moving parts to that, you know what I mean? Like even with the West Virginia, he only had Javon Carter, and the shot blocker, you know what I mean? So then Culver and Toshiwe, they were good, but they just got in each other's way. And Culver didn't get better. And Toshiwe didn't get better. They were just in each other's way. So it was just like not bad offenses. I think it was just the wrong pieces, and the other pieces not doing what they were supposed to be doing. Just like this year, and we talked about it last year, why we're not playing Josiah Harris more, so he'd be ready for end of the year last year and this year. He's not playing bad. Imagine if he played more last year. So, that sort of development, has been lacking the last few years with him.
Do you think that, and this is my personal feeling, I think that once they get Edwards back, a little bigger presence in the middle, and they have a little bit more time to gel, because I'll tell you, Raekwon Battle can play, and so can Farrakhan. Those guys are good, and I think we have some good pieces around them. And I think when we get Edwards back, I think once they have a little bit of time to gel, get that chemistry going a little bit better, I think they're going to be okay. I don't know if they'll be world beaters, but they're going to be okay. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but I kind of feel like we're moving in the right direction. We just got to get that time in with each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the case, is playing together. That's why, last year I was I'm against, the portal getting 5 or 6 guys, If they'd have kept those guys that was there last year and brought this group in, we talk about a whole different team. But it's going to be, I don't know if you can throw it to Edwards and he commands a double team. He does do a good job of rebounding, but nobody else rebounds beside him. You know what I mean? It's either him, some Nick, or Harris will stick his nose in there sometimes, but they get beat on the boards a lot because they're trying to run out. But they'll be decent. I don't know how good. I haven't seen everybody, but who's playing well. I know Houston is really, really good. So it's just and Kansas is really, really good. So are they gonna be big enough to handle Kansas? You know what I mean, with all the athletes they have. So are they in the middle? Maybe at the end. I hope not, but I don't see them. Making a big jump with Edwards.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about. I was looking. A fellow I work with today here in Morgantown, we were looking at the schedule, and you look at Big 12 schedule. Man, told him, I said, I don't know if there's a game on there we can win. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
tough.
It's going to be tough, and and Farrakhan and Battle got to be on the same cylinder that game. You know what I mean? Can't have one without the other. You know what I mean? And just like this game coming up with Houston, they got to play some defense, and because these guys they pushing it down your throat. They play hard defense. You got to be tough. So it's going to be interesting year. To see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed today in looking at the schedule is that if I read it correctly, and those are reviewing, let me know if you saw the same thing. We're not going to be on ESPN, the regular cable channel, satellite channel, until the middle of February. The games leading up to that are all going to be on ESPN Plus subscription service, and so it's going to be tough for a lot of folks to be able to watch the Mountaineers as the season goes on. We're going to talk more basketball, but let's bring in our football guy here. Greg was with us on tape last time, and now he's with us in real time. None other than Randy Flincham.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, guys. Hello, Frank, Coach Chris, and Derek.
Good to see you, Randy. We enjoyed your recording last show. That was good. But we're tickled to death to have you here live. And your field of expertise, we have learned, has been the transfer portal and our recruiting classes. And we're talking about football now, so we're jumping from basketball to football. You are in the know on that. You pay close attention to it. I think a lot of us fans try to, but and I'm guilty of this. At some point, I just lose interest. I'm like, I can't keep up with this anymore. I'll wait until fall, see who we got. That's what I'm worried about, who we got. And but I know people tend to freak out and panic whenever we lose somebody. Oh no, so in the portal. It's a different time. It's a different time, and we're going to lose people in the portal. We're going to get people in the portal. And
Right.
I think it's nice to have somebody that actually pays attention to it, keeps track of it, and can kind of tell us who these people are and what we can expect out of them. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you talk a little bit about the portal and the draft, or not the draft, but the recruitment. And we're looking forward to hearing what you got to say.
All right, thank you. Well, I know following Daryl is a hard act to follow here now.
Daryl's old veteran, man. He's on here. He's on this on these live streams all the time. He's a vet.
I actually started doing this about when I was coaching at Pulaski County High School, and back then there wasn't rivals or recruiting wasn't that big of a deal, and USA Today would post a it would be 2 sheets of every college or every big college in the country, and where who was in their recruiting class. And I helped a newspaper guy out in town. I would just take a highlighter and go through and mark where every guy. They would list the player and the state he was from, and I'd just go through and highlight every guy from Virginia, every guy from West Virginia, every guy from Pennsylvania, every guy. Recruiting in the West Virginia recruiting area, and it got to be fun. And then I got into doing it with pros too. I used to buy Mel Cooper's book he put out every year, and it's just kind of something from that was fun to keep up with. I think a big thing this year now, is of course the portal is still a big deal. One thing that's good about the portal is at least we know that the guys coming in have played college football, and we've got an idea, of how well they did, how well they did at their previous schools. We've had guys come in that were highly recruited, Jason Gwaltney, Mike Booth, and some others that we thought were going to be great, that just didn't quite pan out to be as good as we thought they would. and we've had some quarterbacks along the same line there. So one good thing about the portal, we brought in some guys that we've seen play on the college level, and we got an idea of how well they can do. And another good thing about what you're doing when you look at recruiting classes, you get an idea of what the coaches at West Virginia think are needs. You know, where do they need help for next year? And as far as the portal guys go, we signed 6 guys, and 5 of them were on defense. We signed a guy named Josh Minkins from Louisville, who's going to be a safety. We signed Aiden Garnes, a corner from Duquesne, and we got to see him play live this year. We signed a guy named TJ Crandall, who is a corner from Colorado State. Now, one other thing to look at is how many years they got left. Garnes and Crandall both have 2 years left. I think Minkins just has 1 more for us next year. But there's 3 guys in the secondary. Again, on defense, we signed a fellow named Ty French from Gardner-Webb University down in North Carolina. Well, we lost Jared Bartlett, and basically they both play the same position. Bartlett could have come back for us this year, but he's in the portal. So, I mean, it's the yin and yang right there. We hope French can, I guess, fill that position. We signed a kid named Reed Carrico, who's an inside linebacker from Ohio State. And Carrico is a guy that just couldn't get on the field. I think he's a good player. He was a 4 or 5 star player there. And I think he's from right around that Portsmouth, Ohio area, down southern Ohio. And those are 5 guys on defense that we are counting to play next year. We signed 1 other player out of the portal. That's a wide receiver from Oklahoma State who, by the way, caught a touchdown pass against us this year, Jaden Bray. And Bray was a sophomore. I know he has at least 2 years. He might have 3 years left eligibility-wise. I know we'd like to hang on to these portal guys as long as we can. You know, as far as guys that we lost a guy, I guess it was yesterday, Tamiwa Durajah, who was he was a reserve defensive end, but he played quite a bit. I don't know if he left more for the money or if he left because I don't know if he saw much playing time. I know Vesterinian and Sean Martin are both back next year. Or he might have left us just for the money. Mike Lockhart left. He was a nose tackle, and he went to SMU. Hershey McLaurin was a young fellow that played a lot of safety for us this year. He's in the portal. He hasn't signed with anyone yet. And these guys in the portal have a chance to come back, you know, if the coach will let them. It's up to them. I guess it's up to him there. Jared Bartlett had been a starter, I think, since he was at WVU. Played more of an outside linebacker position there, and was one of our better pass rushers. One guy that I really hated to see leave was a young linebacker, outside linebacker type, named James Hurd. Now, Hurd transferred, or Hurd portaled, and then he's already signed with Syracuse, so he's up there now. I bet if he knew that Bartlett was going to leave, he might have stuck around. I'm sure there was a little money available, and his playing time would probably increase there. One real good thing about the portal, one good thing that we've got happening is these guys, all the portal guys will be in school and will be able to go through spring ball. So those 5 guys on defense and that 1 wide receiver will they'll get a taste of what's going to be expected of them, and they'll have a good chance to learn right there. One other thing, I'll get into some individual players here a little bit later, but we have 7 of the high school kids that we signed or that have signed with us will be in school for the second semester, and we'll be going through spring ball. And a good thing, one of them is our quarterback we signed in this class. His name is Khalil Wilkins, And he's from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, Wise High School there. Daryl, I'm sure, is familiar with that area. And he camped at WVU in the summers. Movement is real good. He's a big kid, 6'4", 190. And, the fact that he'll get a chance to go through spring ball will really help him, and I think will really help us. Hopefully, he'll stick with us the whole 5 years there, the redshirt year and everything, and develop into a good quarterback. The other guy on offense is a tight end, Jack Samarco out of Cincinnati at Walnut Hills High School. He's more of a developmental tight end, big kid. Another one there. He's 6'6", 220. And you get a guy in the weight program, nutrition program they've got up there for 2 years, take a redshirt year and a freshman year. And by his third year at WVU, I mean, this kid could have developed and be ready to play for us there. All the other guys that'll be with us during the spring from high school are defensive players. Young fella Obina Onwuka from Obina is, where in the heck is Obina from?
Maryland.
He's from Flowers High School in Springdale, Maryland. Another guy in that Maryland area there. Will have a chance. Another big kid, 6'4", he's 235. Again, has a chance to develop. Almost all the guys we brought in on defense are tall and rangy. I think out of all the defensive recruits, only one, counting secondary and everything, was under 6 foot. A lot of guys in that 6'4", 6'5" range. Another kid, Elijah Kinsler, is a defensive end, 6'4", 250, from Bergen Catholic in New Jersey. He'll be there all through the spring. Another defensive lineman, Nate Gabriel, is from Auburndale, Florida, 6'4", 285. I'm sure he'll be a defensive tackle. So it's a great opportunity for these guys. We had 2 guys in the secondary, Zay Jennings, who was an outstanding player at Winton Woods High School in Cincinnati. Highly recruited guy. Israel Boyce is another one. Israel's the only guy, the recruit coming in, that'll be under 6 feet that plays defense. And both these guys are safeties. One good thing about our total recruiting class, one thing I noticed is we signed a lot of guys early and held on to them, through the whole recruiting process then. We lost very few recruits that we really wanted to keep, let's say. A lot of guys signed early and a lot of the guys stayed with us. So really we got 13 new guys coming in that are going to go through spring ball with us. The 6 portal guys and the 7 high school guys, which is great. It'll be a great opportunity for them. One thing about looking at recruiting, especially the high school guys, it's an opinion. You don't know. You don't know who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. All you can do is look at them, how they were in high school. They're living there with mom and dad. You don't know what's going to happen with those guys. I think that from what I've gone back and looked at in recruiting classes, about 50% of the recruits are contributors. 50% of the guys will start somewhere along the line there. I think maybe another 20% will stay with the team and contribute maybe in their junior, senior year. And I think at least with the portal now, you're going to lose 30% of those guys in your recruiting class.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. That's the world we live in. Some guys are not going to like it. They're going to leave. They might go in the portal. I don't know. I don't know where they'll go. But I think about 30% of your guys in your recruiting class aren't going to, they're not going to stay with you. That's just, again, that's the world we live in. That's the way it is there. Now, one other big thing about the portal this year, I think it started off 120 quarterbacks were in the portal by the time, I don't know, within a week of that. I think it's more. It's 120 plus now. I couldn't tell you how many are there, but it's really an interesting thing. And one good thing, there's a website out there. It's ON3, the number 3.com. Really helps you keep up with football, basketball, portal news there. It's pretty interesting. The guys do a real good job there. Now,
I'm gonna let you keep up with it for us, Randy. You can keep up for us, and we'll holler at you when we need it.
I couldn't hear you.
I said we'll let you keep up with it, and you can report back to us. How about that?
Okay, I don't know.
Okay,
I didn't
Randy,
hear you
man,
there, but I'm sure if I'm out of line, you just wave your hand at me or whatever.
I think you're good. You're good. I just said we're gonna let you keep track of it on the website and get back with us.
That quarterback Randy's talking about, I seen him play last year, not this past season, but the season before last in the championship game in the city. He played with another school called Roosevelt in DC. They played my old school, Dunbar, and he was clearly the best player on the field. And he transferred to Wise High School out in Upper Marlboro. And I was surprised to hear him going to WVU, but I knew he was a big time talent.
Boy, guys, I don't know. I've got the volume wide open on my mic here. I don't know what's happened.
All right.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Frank, if you want, yeah, we can hear you fine.
Yeah, I can just barely hear you all.
Well, I'll tell you what, then, since
I did write down, I've got a list of each of our players that we brought in. I just wanted to make a point about one thing that's interesting about recruiting, again, is that you can identify what the coaching staff feels like they need. This year, offensively, definitely a point of interest or a point of emphasis was the fact that we brought in 5 wide rallagers. And I thought the young guys really contributed this year. Clement and Traylon Day and Gallagher all did a good job. And we brought in 5 more. I'll mention some names here. A 4-star guy out of Florida that we just signed right at the end of recruiting was Rick Darius, Day Farmer. Nice size kid, 6 foot 170. Out of Melbourne, Florida. He was the number 70 ranked player in Florida, very highly recruited, and recruited by Penn State, Arizona State, Iowa State, Boston College, Miami, Pitt. Should be have an opportunity, I'd say, to play next year. Another kid, Brandon Raymond, Rehmann, out of St. Joe's High School in Philadelphia. Another nice size kid, 6'1", 180. We signed him really early. He was a 4-star. He visited Penn State 3 times. He was recruited by Cincinnati, Kansas, Kentucky, and I think our staff felt really good about getting him in. We signed 2 high school kids from West Virginia there with our wide receivers. Keyshawn Robinson from Jefferson County High School and Dominic Collins, the little guy who is I don't know, quicker than a hiccup there. He's 5'10". They list him at 5'10", 165. I think that's a stretch. But he's from Princeton High School. He's a developmental guy, but he's you can't coach speed now. You can't make that. And he's evidently the coaches are real grateful that they got him at the end. And then the last wide receiver was the portal guy, Jaden Bray, out of Oklahoma State. And he'll be a sophomore, so he'll have 3 years. Hopefully we can keep him for 3 years, and he'll excel for us too. We really didn't hit the offensive line hard. We signed one lineman out of Good Counsel High School, again in Maryland there, Darryl. His name is Kyle Altuner, 6'3", 284. He played in the Army High School All-Star game here, I think, this past weekend. A good player, very highly recruited. Boston College, Maryland, Michigan State, Penn State, Tennessee, UVA, and they're looking at possibly moving him to center also. And we signed 2 kids, big kids, one 6'5", 315, named Justin Terry out of Pickering High School in Pickering, Ohio, offensive tackle. And another big kid, another tackle, 6'7", 270, out of Sterling, Illinois. Now, both these guys are big and have decent feet. They're just not quite strong enough yet, and they're developmental players. But in 2 years in that weight room and on that nutrition program and working with Mike Joseph in that strength program, they've got a great chance to be players. They're not ready. They're just not ready yet. We signed 2 running backs, one out of Gahanna, Ohio, named Dior Hubbard, 5'9", 190. He was recruited by Kentucky, Marshall, West Virginia, Bowling Green. And the other kid we signed late, just in the last week of the recruiting period, his name is Trayvon Dunbar, 5'9", 204, out of Midland Valley High School in Aiken, South Carolina. Highly recruited, Arkansas, Boston College, Maryland, Virginia Tech, Clemson, Florida State. And we got him at the last minute there. Offensively, I think there's some guys there that will be able to play. But other than the wide receivers, I think there maybe it'll be a year or two before they're ready to go. We on the defensive side, 1, 2, 3, we signed 4 defensive linemen, and all 4 of them will be with us in the spring. We signed really 3 linebackers. Ty French is a transfer from Gardner-Webb, and he plays the same position Bartlett plays. And there's a great opportunity for him to step in and play next year. He's going to have to. He just has 1 year of eligibility left. The other 2, Curtis Jones out of Cabell Midland High School, out of West Virginia, is a linebacker. Again, he's 6'1", 204, and moves really well. Speed is much more his bag right now. And I think he's a guy they don't expect to contribute for a year or 2, but there's a great possibility there. Now, a kid that has a chance to step in and play is Ricky Williams, a linebacker out of Hoban High School in Akron, Ohio. Big kid, 6'2", 220, going to be an inside linebacker. He's good. It's about the best thing I could say. The coaches were high on him. But again, that's an opinion. We haven't seen him play in that college football yet. The other guys, we signed 5. We signed 2 guys in the secondary there that are 3 guys in the secondary that are portal guys, 2 corners and a safety. And I say after spring ball in April, when the portal opens back up for 2 weeks there, I'd say we'll still look for another corner. So T.J. Crandall and Aiden Garnes and Josh Minkins are the portal guys. And we really signed more safeties out of high school. Zay Jennings, Jason Cross, and Israel Boyce. So I think all in all, coaches have to be real pleased with what we got coming in here. But again, that's an opinion. We're going to have to wait and see what happens when they hit the field here. I know one thing, and I'll shut up here and let somebody else talk. I remember when I was recruited way back in the dark ages. Oh man, I heard about how tough these guys are. Pennsylvania played in a big 33 game in that line, and I saw guys from Southwest or Southern West Virginia right there just kick their butt. So talk's cheap. When it comes to nut cutting time, you get there on the field. I really look forward to seeing how some of these guys turn out.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see, and I know.
I'll be quiet.
I think we can all.
I wish I could hear you guys.
Yeah, we think we can see. I think most of us that pay attention to any at all can see where Neil Brown has really focused his attention on this portal and recruits, and I think it's obviously areas of need that we have. So let's go ahead and move on here. We don't want to run short time. I want to get some of these other discussions in before we do move on. But I wanted to get everybody's take on the recent bowl game that WU participated in, the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Greg, before we do that, could we just take a few minutes to look at this slide? Because sure. I think what this slide does, Randy did a great job of focusing on WVU as WVU. And he mentioned the job that On3 does. And what we put together here is West Virginia in relationship to the rest of the Big 12, and then in relationship to the country. And you talked, Randy, about opinions. And these are opinions. One is from Rivals on the recruiting side, and the other is On3 on the portal side. But I think there are patterns here that are important, I think. On the recruiting side, high school, Rivals has West Virginia ranked 41st in the country. But what's interesting about that is fourth in the new 16-team Big 12. And if you think about that for a second, that may say as much about the Big 12 and its position nationally than it does about West Virginia. 41st in the country, but fourth in the Big 12. And if you look at the other schools, you'll see the highest rated recruiting high school incoming class in the Big 12 is Texas Tech at 23. So the Big 12 did not have any school, the new Big 12 with 16 teams did not have any team in the top 20. UCF is 32, TCU 36. If you look at the portal, WVU is ranked 17th nationally because even though we lost a lot of players, the incoming players, which are fewer in number, are evaluated by on3.com as being better than the ones we're losing. And we're also number fourth in the 16-team new Big 12. What's interesting there is, and we all know this from hearing Prime talk, Colorado is number one, no surprise, in the portal because they're not recruiting as many high school kids. TCU is in the top 10. So on the portal side, the Big 12 has two teams in the top 10, and West Virginia is in the top 20, and so is Texas Tech. So the Big 12 is doing, at least the way it's evaluated here, a lot better on the portal side, competitively nationally, than they are in the recruiting side. But when you put them together, which On3 does, and combines both recruiting and portal, you'll see there that West Virginia is 56th in the country, so lower than the recruiting, lower than portal, 56th in the country, and then number 10 in the 16-team Big 12. And what we did there, those are all the rankings from On3 from a combined point of view, all the 16 teams, and you'll see that which teams are ahead of WVU and the teams that are behind us. And again, the thing that strikes me as I look at this is that on a combined basis of incoming talent, none of the Big 12 teams made it in the top 20. Tech is the highest rank at 21, and there are about 5 or 6 teams that are in the top 50. West Virginia, obviously at 56. So I think that's something for us to consider. Your thoughts about that, Randy, Greg, Daryl? The reason I slap it up here, I thought these numbers to me they're really important. And you got to look at both sides of the coin, which Randy did one side, which is great, which is the players that we recruited. And then what this does is look at it from a different perspective, Big 12 and then nationally.
It almost gives you the feel that we're headed in the same direction as the ACC. You know, you see these rankings and these recruiting classes, which, you know, again, that's somebody's opinion, but you almost feel like with those opinions, that's what gets people in playoffs and that sort of thing. And it makes you worry a little bit that you know, with the loss of OU and Texas, that our overall standing, our overall look recruiting wise is going to be dropping, and that's worrisome, I think.
I would look at where's Alabama, LSU, Georgia ranked the high school recruits. I think I'll take a look at that and think that's more important. And everybody's going to lose people. It's over 100 players per team, so you're going to lose some people. Yeah. But you know, I think teams like that in Georgia, especially Georgia, Alabama, and they just retool from what they have. You know, right. You know, the portal thing. You know, being 41st in the country and being 4th in the Big 12, that helps with the Big 12. You know what I mean? But you know, at the end of the day, you still want to be ranked amongst the best. But you know, that's better than what Neil Brown's been doing. From what I've heard in the past. So. You know, everything is getting better, and that's what you want. You know, so if you can keep building, I think that'd be great for the program.
Yep, and I think he is doing better. And I think it took him a year or two to figure out the portal part of it. I think he's got that figured out pretty well right now. Knowing you just don't grab people because they're there. You look at what your needs are, you focus on those needs, and you try to pull people to fill spots, because these transfer guys, that's not somebody you're looking to bring in and coach him up for 3 or 4 years. That's somebody you're looking to come in and play immediately. And I think he's doing a pretty good job of that right now.
Yeah, and I think what this says, and I think it's important, is that what you said, Daryl, is so true. The Georgias and Alabamas, they're going to get the 5 stars. I looked at the number that Ohio State had, and you just shake your head. It's just incredible. Which means schools like West Virginia, the coaching staff has to really comb and identify talent that maybe other schools aren't looking at as seriously. Jaheim White is a good example of that. Diamond in the rough, so to speak, and then coach these guys up. And I've said this before on this show and on Wolf's show. That's what Mark D'Antonio did at Michigan State. He wasn't going to be able to compete with the Michigans, Ohio States, and Penn States and Notre Dame's in terms of bringing in the 4 and 5 stars. He brought in the 2s and 3 stars, coached them up. And a number of those guys went on to the pros, and he won multiple Big Ten championships. And I really think Neil Brown's of the same fabric. But the other thing that you brought up, Greg, is something that we're going to be talking more about, and that is where is the Big 12 in the weeks to come? Where is the Big 12? Where is it going? How does it compare to particularly the SEC and the Big Ten? Yeah. And I don't think there's any question. The data show that the Big 12 is more like the ACC than the Big Ten and the SEC. That doesn't mean that we're not competitive, but what it means is that it requires a lot more savvy strategy and really great coaching, both on basketball and football, to be able to compete. It might be easier in basketball because of the numbers, I'm not sure, but the bottom line is that that's really important. So, got to bring in Randy again. Let me see. Got to bring him in. He dropped out. Okay, Randy, go ahead, please.
Okay, guys, I can hear you now. I left and came back. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, Frank, I think what you said, it's like, I think we're a little bit above the ACC, the Big 12, and especially in football. Basketball, it depends on what team, so it's very competitive because it's you got 25, 26-year-olds playing now, all over the place, especially in basketball. But it's going to start leveling itself back out to being normal soon because COVID is past and now people are coming in. You get your 5 years. So I think then also even with the portal, you can't go in there after 2 times, right? So everything's going to start to normalize itself, and then when they start passing new legislation, it should get back to some kind of normalcy soon. And I think the Big 12 is they add these other teams, making the Big 12 very competitive. You know what I mean? It's not like it's top heavy or bottom heavy. It's like it's tough all the way through. So. And
Daryl, now that you mentioned that, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that always irks me is how they talk about these conferences being the best conference and this is the second best and all that. As you look at these conferences, you look at the Big Ten and you got, Michigan, Ohio State, who, was okay, Penn State, who was okay, and then everybody else is just everybody else. Same way in the SEC, really. When you look at the SEC, you got Alabama, you got Georgia. Other ones are just so-so. See, in just about all these conferences, you had 2 really good teams, and then everybody else just kind of mediocre. I think in the Big 12, everybody's everybody's just like the same kind of, Now there's a couple that are, right now the bottom feeders, but they'll get better as well. But it always bothers me when they talk about how good these conferences are or how they're so much better than these other conferences. But when you actually look at them team by team and see their performance on the field, it's more about a name than it is actual performance. When you see, Penn State being mentioned as one of the better teams or whatever, and I don't think that's always the case. I think some of these conferences are vastly overrated, but the media has that narrative. ESPN has that narrative. That equals money, and they want to see that product produce money. So they're going to stay. The SEC is the best conference in the world.
And this, Greg, and like what happens is all those 5-star recruits that goes to those places, that's how they get ranked because they know who they are. They don't know about the 2, 3, 4-star guys as much as they know about the 5-star. So just like with basketball, they always rank if, because I was a high school All-American, my high school team got ranked. You know what I mean? Like, so it's very easy just to say, okay, they're pretty good because he's on the team and he's on the team and he's on the team until they actually play the games. But, it's like, I think the Big 12 had a good showing this year. You know what I mean? It's just, like, I don't think, technically Alabama shouldn't have been in the top 4 if the quarterback at Florida State got hurt. So, like, you said, the overrated thing, it's just because what they've done in the past, you put them out there because they have, that guy's going to be a lottery pick. He's going to be this, he's going to be that. But, you know what I mean? But you're going to discount what Florida State did all year and didn't lose the game. So, it's like you said, it's all media driven. Who likes who in the media and who can put who in the stands and get the ratings.
Right. And who likes who. You mentioned, I brought this up a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about this. I can remember several years back, and Randy might recall this. I don't know if he does or not, but this caught my eye. Alabama had recruited a receiver, and I can't remember his name. They said he was a 5-star. Watching ESPN, they talked about him being a 5-star recruit. Well, about 3 weeks later, he decommitted, and West Virginia ended up getting him. So then they started talking about West Virginia getting a 3-star recruit. And I'm like, that's the same guy, a 5-star recruit, So there's a lot of bias there and all that. So who pays a lot of attention to which conference is the best other than people in the SEC? They're the only ones that ever chant their conference name, and I've noticed.
Thing that's coming up that's hurting the ACC, and that's another reason Florida State's trying to get out is their TV contract is terrible, and I think the Big East. I mean, I think the Big 12. I think teams are getting 11 million more a year last year than the ACC teams did.
Yeah, and I think we're getting close to that tipping point where this. They talked about these major conferences, however they align them. We're getting close to that. And I think we'll have a couple more years of upheaval before all this stuff finally settles down, just because of that money's out there. And that's what drives everything. And it's unbalanced right now.
Chip had a great interview
yes, he did.
On Pat, golly, I've drawn a blank.
Pat McAfee show. Yeah, I watched it.
About money. Teams sending the volleyball team from UCLA to Rutgers to play. The idea was, start an NCAA total football conference with a president or a commissioner, and then let the other conferences keep their division rivalries and stuff and play each other, play them in baseball. Like basketball might even wind up in with football in too, and then let all the other sports stay with their, in with their regional rivalries and play guys. It was really good interview. If you get a chance, I'm sure it's out there on YouTube.
Yeah, it was good. He made a lot of good points. He talked about, the NCAA doing it like the NFL. With having, he said, say eight divisions nationwide, 64 teams. And that way you keep your local rivalries and all that, like Randy said, and your alignment could go that way. And that way you still have your, you still have your rivalry games, but you also have your division that you have to worry about, just like the NFL. Yes. And he made a lot of good points. A lot of people are thinking that might be the way things headed.
No, what I was told from somebody from Nike, he don't work at Nike no more. He told me they trying to do 5 to 6 conferences. Major conferences. Nike was going to cut off everybody else and just deal with the teams in the 5 and 6 conferences. Wow. You know what I mean? It was just, I was like, oh, okay. So it's all about this, all about the money. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Big 12 tapped into, the Texas TV market. You know what I mean? Now they tapping out to the West Coast TV market. So it's all about the dollar. So I would hate to fly 2-3 hours for every game and fly back 2 or 3 hours. So it's a grind, but
Yeah, and I think that's a real disadvantage. Like for West Virginia, for example, in basketball, that's got to be tough. I mean, they're it's not like football where you play one game a week. You may might be going
Man,
to.
it was the same when you had to travel to other schools. You just,
Right.
but you had to go. We was flying commercial half the time, so
No,
but to drive an hour to Pittsburgh, then
right.
get on a regular plane and be uncomfortable on the plane, and so it's more convenient now because especially basketball and football, they have their own planes. So
Right. Right.
I know for the other sports like soccer and all that, they probably don't. So
Mhm.
it can be a drag.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh yeah, guarantee it. Well, Frank, you want to move on now? We're done with this
Yep.
topic, and give us
Let's do that,
comments.
and we can
Yeah.
throw this up.
right.
As you were talking there, you're talking about the money in sports, but if you look at the outcomes, the comparative outcomes in that middle column, how the conferences did, you see the Pac-12, at least at this point with one more game to play, won 63% of their bowl games. The Big 12 is competitive at 54, the same as the SEC and the Pac-12. And so we can talk about 5 stars and the funding differential, but the fact of the matter is the only one that was below 500 was the ACC.
One other thing too, and Randy might have a comment on this. I've thought about this. I really feel this way, and I've said this for a long time. I think the transfer portal in basketball, I think might eventually start leveling out the playing field, because you got 7 5-star guys going to Duke. Well, 2 or 3 of them aren't going to get to play as much as they think they should or at all. So they're going to transfer to other places. You're going to have all these, these type of guys, I think, moving around. In football, I don't know, you talk about the 5 stars and all this, and then you look at what happens here in these bowl games where these teams, they go out and beat these guys on a regular. I still think, with these conferences, they have a couple of good teams at the top, and then you have everybody else. And I think just about all these conferences are that way. I think that's why these records are like this, so close. There's not a ton of dominating teams out there now. Once you get rid of that top 4 or 5 group, everybody else is the same basically. And so I think there's something to be said for all this transfer portal. I'm not so sure in the end we might not look at it and say, well, you know what, kind of level the playing field for a lot of folks.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point. I really think that's an important point that we got to look at as we go forward. I want to ask you guys a question, all of you. What's your biggest surprise in that right-hand column in terms of the Big 12 bowl performance? Obviously, we're all proud of WVU, and they shut out UNC in the second half to win that game going away. But apart from that, what's the biggest surprise in terms of the Big 12 bowl performance, the other teams?
Well, I'll go first. I think one of the biggest surprise was Kansas with 600 total yards. And then you go down to Iowa State with 0 rushing yards. I think those 2 things were very surprising. And as far as West Virginia's game, I think it was surprising that we didn't perform all that well as a team, I didn't think, but we still beat the pants off of North Carolina. So that was a good surprise.
Yeah. Mine was Memphis beating Iowa State like that. Iowa State, they did lose some portal kids. Quite a few. They had 12 kids in the portal. But Memphis beating Iowa State would be my surprise there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm an alum, so that would be my number 2 of Iowa State. They just didn't look right, and also OU just folding, Arizona just coming back. The point I would make about Memphis that you brought up, they really have. I think they were miffed that they were not invited into the Big 12. They had a lot of support. We heard a lot of WU fans talk about Memphis, and they really wanted. And you heard this on the telecast. They're eyeing to get into the college football playoff next year. They want to be one of those 12 teams.
Uh-huh. Well, I could see that. I don't know. But I could see that. And Oklahoma, got the quarterback leaving like he did, and that left, I think, high and dry there too. Dylan Gabriel didn't play, I don't think, in the bowl game. He's going to Washington.
Yeah.
Maybe
like
I'm looking at
just folded.
I'm looking at K-State 500 rushing yards. That's unbelievable.
That's unreal.
That's unbelievable.
Yep.
Some people get 500 in the whole season.
Yeah. I didn't see that one. I already looked at my other one and I saw that and I was like, my gosh,
Great.
500 rushing yards. I watched a lot of that game too. And you know, you hear a lot of people talking about a certain defensive coordinator coming to WVU being the head coach. I'm not certain. We might want to relook at. And I say that in jest. Gibby is a good friend of mine. He's the defense coordinator at Ohio State. He's a good friend. But yeah, that's amazing.
Who do you guys have? Who do you guys have for next Monday night?
Well, I think that I think it's going to be pretty competitive. I think a lot of people don't think it's going to be. I think Washington's going to hang in there with Michigan, but I think Michigan it's going to win. That's my pick. I think they'll defeat them, but I think Washington will be competitive. That Penix is man alive. He's something else, and he's got some great receivers. He got 2 or 3 receivers that are NFL guys, and they're pretty daggone good. So I think it'll be competitive, but I think Michigan's going to win.
Well, if I bet with my heart, I'd bet on Washington. If I bet with my, I'd bet on Michigan.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Michigan too, but that quarterback at Washington pretty good. So.
Yes, they're
tough.
Michael Penix.
Yeah,
he's good.
He throws that ball, so we'll see how that line holds up because didn't.
Well, and he's got, like I said, he's got several wide receivers that are NFL prospects. They're good receivers. I don't know if they can stop Michigan from scoring, but I think they're going to be competitive just because of him and his receivers.
That Washington team, I'll tell you, their head coach is phenomenal. They have three receivers of over 1,000 yards, 3 receivers each with over 1,000 yards. And I'll tell you, when I was at Michigan State, there was one quarterback I did not want to see come on the field. Brian Greasy was the quarterback for the University of Michigan when I was there, part of the time I was there. And it was Brady. Tom Brady was not the starter at Michigan. And I was just keeping my fingers crossed that Greasy would continue to play. No offense, Brian, if you're watching, he's a pro quarterback coach now. But when Brady came back, that team would just snap to it. And he actually won one game with him coming in. And the same thing with Penix. When he played for Indiana, he came in to Spartan Stadium. I couldn't believe this guy. He is phenomenal. So you got 3 1,000-yard receivers. You got a great coach he's just superb. And you've got, I think, the person who should have won the Heisman at quarterback. They're 4.5-point underdogs. I would not bet against Washington. Nobody's thinking about them. All the focus is on Michigan. I'll tell you, we'll see.
Frank, you mentioned the coach, and of course, I was a coach for 30 years, so I try not to be real critical of coaches. I know Daryl's coached some. You try not to, try not to criticize other coaches, but I coach basketball. This is football, so I'm gonna criticize. You're talking about the Washington coach. I don't know if you guys watched the game or not, but I thought the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game, his clock management, play calling were absolutely horrendous, and he ended up getting his running back hurt because of it. Several things transpired. I'm not going to go through all those things, but that last, 4 or 5 minutes of the game, that game should have been over, and he let Texas stay in it and have a chance to win it. And I thought he made some horrible decisions down the stretch. I don't know if you guys watched it or not, but.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. And when I say great, I mean that in a longer term perspective.
Right.
Yeah, but you're right. And he was criticized roundly for that, and I think rightfully so. They shouldn't have had a chance at the end. And, I think both of those games were surprising because, and my wife Kathy and I talked a lot about this, the Michigan-Alabama game, given the fact that those 2 programs have won more games than any other programs in the country, and those 2 coaches literally are legendary, both Harbaugh and certainly Saban. When you think about the special teams play for Michigan, and you think about the play calling for Alabama, particularly that last call, you just shake your head. So Now, obviously, that's an incredible stage to be on, but you just don't expect that kind of play. I mean, I think about that Michigan punt returner because he got slammed by the Alabama defender coming down.
It's a miracle he held on to it.
If he had fumbled that ball and that ball was recovered and Michigan loses, you're not able to show your face for the rest of your life.
Yep.
So, I think the point I bring up is you're right. There was some in two huge games, strange happenings. Just strange happenings. I want to say too, obviously, before we go further, that Mickey's not with us tonight. We regret that. He has the flu. Joey Foster, who's usually with us, is not with us. He has the flu. And Keith Hawkins, who was supposed to be with us, had internet instability and just couldn't be on with us. And we'll have Keith on in a future time. But I want to make sure I get that in.
Hey, Frank,
another thing too. Go ahead, Randy.
One quick thought. You go back and look at that last play that Alabama ran.
Wasn't a bad play.
The coach called a play. Players got to execute too. I think if the quarterback had run one whole wide, they'd have run through the A gap, center and guard. If he'd have just ran, they pulled the backside guard, and he didn't have anybody to hit. Look at that pull in and see if he'd have ran one whole wide or. I think
he had a hole. Yeah, he had a hole in the left side and could have scored easily, I think. But the snap was low.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of panicked when he picked it up. He kind of panicked a little bit, just took off, ran right into the pile. If he would have just stepped to the left, he had a big opening right there.
Yeah.
But then again, when have you watched a game with a center that had so many bad snaps? In fact, my wife and I were talking. We wondered if he was concussed at some point in the game and wasn't able to function.
My brother and I were talking about that this morning. I said, I'm not so sure that he just wasn't seeing a blue streak go by him every time, because that first part of the game, they were killing him and just blowing by him every time. And I think he was so conscientious about the rush, he was just trying to snap it and move. I mean, that's a tough job, tough spot to be playing. And I think their rush was so ferocious that he was just having a hard time with it.
I know an offensive lineman from Bama entered the portal. It might have been him. I don't know.
You're right. You're right.
I was watching ESPN. And they was talking about that. It's that when you line up in the shotgun the whole time, the linemen gonna put their heads down. That's and it's gonna rush. You know what I mean? You didn't give them a different look. And eventually stuff like that happens when, the rush is ferocious, like we said, and then you have a guy that is always catching the ball in the shotgun. Like there's a center going to be anxious too, because he got he said the guys lining up on both shoulders. So, then they cross, he don't know which one to go to. So he had a lot to think about too. So instead of just, instead of just going forward, he had to put all that together, and it was going too fast.
Yep, and it was fast. And you watch the games and you watch the center. Man, what a job they have. I mean, they get up there and they have to call out the blocks and get all that set and the blitzers and that sort of thing. Then they got to make sure they get the snap in the right spot. And then they got to move quick enough to stop the defensive guy. That's a heck of a job. But I felt really bad for a kid. I mean, I know they just kept criticizing him on the air about his bad snaps, because he did have a bunch of them. But
it goes back to coaching. You know what I mean? Like, Harbaugh he brings all them pro coaches in. And that's all it was. You know what I mean? It was just a different level of coaching, So, it's level of college coaching, and there's, levels of pro coaching, and he brought in the pro stuff, and they wasn't ready for it.
Yep. And I heard him say on the broadcast that, I don't know if it's the offensive coordinator for Alabama or if it was Saban that said that they ran a NFL style defense. Michigan does. And then they went on to say that, of course, he went down to his brother's, to the Ravens camp, and watched their coaches and talked to their coaches about the defensive side. And so they said that Michigan ran an NFL defense. And it definitely looked different than what you're used to seeing. I'm sure Alabama said the same thing.
He's making up excuses because he's supposed to be running NFL style offense and defenses the whole time until he got his butt kicked. You know what I mean? Like, so he got his butt kicked. So now he talk about somebody else doing it.
No, that's funny. Yeah. Yeah, but I felt kind of bad for that kid because he was getting their whole offensive line was getting abused first half.
Yeah.
Getting better the second half. That first half was tough.
They
One more thing
they didn't help him out. They did not help him out.
And you guys probably disagree with me on this because I've argued with everybody. Everybody thinks I'm wrong, but I haven't lost an argument yet. Anyway, we was talking about this Florida State debacle, and even my favorite broadcaster, Mad Dog Russo, I listen to every day, had me ticked off last night talking about Florida State. And I don't want to hear another word out of Florida State. They got beat 63-3, going on about that. They didn't deserve to be there. Well, I was looking at their roster and the players that they did not have, and it was like 21 players that played for them a lot, started, weren't playing, didn't play in that bowl game. And I don't think you can look at that particular game and say, well, they didn't deserve to be there. I mean,
no, they deserve to be playing Michigan in the Final Four. That's why all them guys backed up out of it, because it's
That's right.
I mean, like you up your stock. That's like going to one of those combines at the end of the season. That's when you up your stock. You know what I mean? Like I don't agree with it, but I understand. We go undefeated. We didn't lose no games, but we're not good enough to be in a championship game to a team that's lost and got beat. You know what I mean? So because of what they've done in the past. No, it's this season because you like Saban or whatever the reasons are. You know what I mean? This, Florida State deserved to be in there, but because of the quarterback got hurt. That was everybody was saying that. Oh, because the quarterback got hurt. So now you got people, making judgments on them, about a team that, like because of quarterback, then okay, and the whole team shut down.
Yeah, that's right.
People, a lot of people. That's two starters. You know what I mean? That's two starting both sides of the
oh yeah, it was a ton of people.
The ball. You know what I mean? So that's they didn't have nothing, and people wasn't ready, and then he probably wasn't into it. I mean, like they didn't. They're not deserving to be there. They just didn't want to play.
Right. Yeah, and even back when they were saying about their quarterback, I said, how do they know that their backup quarterback might come in there and be better, or whatever? And I said, you don't have any way of knowing that. They did what they had to do and what they were supposed to do to get there. TCU got drilled last year in it. I hear nobody say they didn't deserve to be in it. Games like that happen sometimes, but when you lose, your team, I don't care if you got a month to prepare or not. You can't make up for losing, 25 players or whatever it was that they lost. And I think I still say, regardless of how good, and I know they're beating themselves on the chest right now because they had these great semifinal games, and they were great games, no question about it. But I still think they screwed up the way they selected them. I'll still say that because I just think that Florida State should have been there. And they say, well, you want the best teams? Well, you should have Georgia in there. Georgia's the best team in college football. They're better than all of them, And they lose, to Alabama, and I watched Alabama play Auburn, and I'm thinking, Auburn, what were they, 6-6 this year, and won on a miracle play. So why did they deserve to be there so much more than Georgia or Florida State or any of these other folks? So I think the whole thing's a screwed up mess, but hopefully it'll be better with 12. I don't know if it'll be any better. It must be 12 times as worse. 12 times as bad. I don't know.
It's always going to be something because it's not like the NFL where it's only a certain amount of teams. You know what I mean? It's too many teams, and there's going to be eye tests and who like who and who has power to do this. So it's always
you're going to get down to number 12, and then number 13 is going to be like, hey, we did this, 14, hey, we did this, and then you're going to have the number 3 seed saying, well, why are we number 2 seed? Because now we got to go play Georgia, and we should be going playing, Memphis, whatever. So you're still going to have arguments about it, no question. But hopefully it'll be a little bit better where they have. And I think this is another indication of how there's a little bit more parity, even at this don't sound right, but at the top level, there's more parity with Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, whatever. And I just think that's slowly but surely oozing its way into the whole system. And I think this is indicative of that. That's just my opinion. Frank, I don't know what you think about that, but
well, Politics is everywhere, and we threw out the BCS, which was based on a statistical formula, because the teams we wanted in there, the powers that be, often didn't make it. And so, and so we went to a committee. I was in higher education for 40 years. The last thing you want to do in many cases is give it to a committee. But you give it to a committee, there are politics there. And so it's just, the Florida State thing reignited their desire to get out of the ACC. Think about it. The chair of the committee, basically is an AD from the ACC. They felt, it is a mess. And I think Daryl's correct. When you get to 12, they're going to say, what about the 13th? Greg said the same thing. So, but the nice thing is that when you expand the tent, at least more teams have a chance to play. Georgia would have been in this year. Oregon would have been in this year. Florida State would have been in this year. And so, but there is always going to be controversy. The one thing that came out, and I've been listening and watching for what the fans are saying or watching, things are looking up for West Virginia, and that's important. It's going to be the one thing I still do not believe. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. We need, as fans, to up our game too, because the landscape is so complex, so fast changing. We sometimes tend to look at football at West Virginia as though we're still in the Big East. The Big East isn't there anymore. The competition, it's a death march among the conferences. The NCAA can't control it. One thing to watch is to see what the NCAA does with this Michigan situation. They have basically sent Michigan a letter. Can you imagine what's going to happen if the NCAA doesn't just punish the head coach, but punishes Michigan for their transgressions? And if they do that after Michigan is named the national champion, that could end the NCAA as we know it. And so it's going to be very interesting. I have a question here coming in from a fan and I want to make sure I read it too. So we'll just see. Okay. Oh, no, I can't do it. Current recorder is asking if we can show something, and I'd love to, but we've got copyright issues. But it relates to football predictions for 2024. And before we bid you adieu, some of you have seen this. Some of you may have not seen it. Maybe we can end with this, Greg, what people think about for the 24 football schedule. Here's the 24 football schedule for WVU. The good thing is that, with an uneven slate, some teams are going to get 5 conference games at home. Other Big 12 teams are going to get 4. West Virginia is lucky because out of the chute in the new Big 12, we get 5. So those are the 5 teams we play at home. Don't underestimate SUNY Albany. They went to the football championship series, the division this year, and got all the way, I think, to the semifinals. And so they're tough. And then we play Pitt and Penn State, split those home and away. And then the conference away games, Arizona, let me tell you, this is tough. They've been down for so long. They've turned that program around. You saw the numbers about Texas Tech. They're doing a really good job bringing in young talent. Oklahoma State, you always got to fear them. Cincinnati, we're not surprised that they had a tough time coming in. But maybe we do this the last topic. What do you guys think about that schedule?
Well, go ahead, Randy. You go first.
I would say we can go 8-4 with that. Home schedule: Kansas State, Iowa State are going to be tough. I don't know about UCF; they're having a good year recruiting. Arizona and Oklahoma State and Texas Tech away. I think we can win 2 of those. I think we can win. I'll take Penn State. That's 3, and let's win 4 out of 5 at home. I'll go 8-4 with that.
Daryl, what do you think?
Yeah, I haven't seen everybody, so I don't know, because you never know how things start at the beginning of the year. Who do we play first?
Penn State.
Again?
Yep.
I mean, we did a good job there. I mean, it was a good,
Okay.
hard fought game. What was our record this year?
End up 9-4.
Yeah, 8-4 before the.
I'll go 8-4 again. I like that.
All right. Well, I think that Penn State opener's tough. Got them at home, so there's hope. And I think we're going to be a pretty good football team next year. I really have high hopes for this next season. And I'm not so sure we're not going to win 9 or 10 games. I'll go 9-3 because I think we're going to be a lot better than what we were last year. And I don't think Penn State will be as good. And I don't think some of these other Big 12 teams are going to be as good as they were. So I'm going to go with 9.
Yeah.
Frank, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I have to say, I know there's still a lot of controversy about this. With all the cutthroat, stab you in the back approach to college sports these days, both football and basketball, we got a hell of a head coach in Neil Brown. He's the kind of person I'd want my son to play for, and he's able to be a high character guy in a sport where sometimes character is not always high. Again, I keep on saying this, and people are going to say, stop it, Frank. He reminds me of Mark D'Antonio, because Mark D'Antonio, high character guy, brought in really good players. They didn't get into a lot of trouble, and when they did, he took immediate steps. You don't see the WVU football players in the news for the wrong reason. He's getting diamonds in the rough. I mean, think about Clement. Came in as a walk-on, preferred walk-on, got a scholarship, should have won the Houston game on that pass. He was a go-to receiver in the bowl game. This is a guy that didn't go anywhere else to a Power 5 school. And so you look at Jaheim White, same thing. You got some guys on the defense side. So I like the culture, and that goes a long way. Now, here's the deal. You got those 3 non-conference games first. And we were talking earlier, and I agree, the media can be great, but it also can be part of the problem. If Penn State beats West Virginia, then the media won't give West Virginia any nothing. Even if they beat SUNY Albany, which they'll be favored to do in Pitt. So if West Virginia can beat Penn State at home, and I think they've got a great chance of doing that. On Wolfman Show, I did an analysis of Penn State starting the season as a favored team against underdogs, and they've been up and down. So I think if West Virginia can win that game, they're going to be in a national spotlight. And then I think if they can go into the conference season 3-0, I think 9-3 is a real possibility.
Yep, I agree. Another talking about the media and how they look at these folks. That's always been a problem for WVU as well. If Penn State is ranked, say they're preseason ranked number 8, and they lose their 3rd game of the season, well, they'll drop down to 15. If West Virginia is ranked in the top 25 at all, which usually they're not in preseason, and they lose a game, they're so far down that they could win the rest of them and crawl back up and be about number 15th, just because they preseason rank these guys and they rank them on reputation so many times. And that's, that's hard on a school like WVU because, like I said, we're not ever up there to begin with. And then if we lose a game, man, we're buried. And like you said, if we lose that first game to Penn State, we could win the next 11 and we might make the top 10, maybe. I wouldn't count on it, but we might, and it's so unfair because these teams can, the Alabamas, the Penn States, they can lose and they'll drop from 3rd to 7th,
but sometimes they lose into another top 5, top 10 team. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I got that. Yep. But
but it's exciting times. And one thing I wanted to show since I put it together, and Daryl's seen this, about flipping back to basketball, if I can get my mouse to work right here, and it's not, is here are data on the basketball team. And what I want you to see here, if you can see this, I hope you can all see it. I'll try to enlarge it. Is not, here's the analysis through the non-conference schedule. And if you look at the rank for WVU in literally all those areas, of 362 teams, we're down, but there's hope. We got better players. They're beginning to play together, and we're going to keep this visual because we're thinking that at the end of the season, we're not going to be in the 300s and the high 200s or the high 100s. And I think the same thing is happening with football. That these are great times for us in basketball and football. Women's basketball looks great. We know how well the baseball team did, soccer team. So I think great leadership, great coaches, great experiences, and so it's an exciting time. Always is. But it's an especially exciting time to be a Mountaineer.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. It is, and it's going to get better and better. I think the basketball is going to get better. I'm anxious to look at that graphic again at the end of the season, or maybe 15 games from now, and just see what improvement we have seen, because I think we're going to see a vast improvement. At least I'm hoping. And I think you can't fault the guys that they had. They played with what they had, and they were playing their best. They just weren't good enough. And I think with the new infusion of players there we got, I think it's going to really help us. So, well, listen, guys, we're running short of time here. We're going a little overtime tonight, which is fine with me because I've enjoyed listening to you guys and all your expertise. I want to thank all of you. Daryl, thank you so much for joining us. Your basketball knowledge is awesome, and we love hearing from you and your opinions. And your football knowledge, it's not bad. Not bad. Just kidding. And Randy, of course, your insight into recruiting and the portal, always interesting. And I know you're going to keep track of that for us. We're definitely going to get you back on here and go over that even more as we move on toward the spring and the summer. So we're looking forward to that as well. You guys, both of you, welcome back anytime. We will definitely have you back on the show. Appreciate you so much for joining us. Daryl, you got one more thing you'd like to say?
Let's we talk about these wins for the football and basketball team. Like, let's go support that women's basketball team. Like, let's get out there, enjoy it while you can. It's like look at somebody put the score. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they're beating people. That's what you want. You know what I mean? It becomes contagious. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when we was that year we had the 22 game winning streak. Everybody forgot they do. The football team played for the national championship too.
That's right.
You know what I mean? A major. So it was like it gets contagious. It's like, so it gets it gets everybody going. It gets the alumni, the people who live in Morgantown, West Virginia. It gives them something to look forward to.
Absolutely, and I agree with Daryl. I think, Frank, that might be something we think about for a show on down the road, is checking into this girls' basketball team, because they're playing lights out right now, and they're a pretty good basketball squad. Be something for us to look into. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you so much. We look forward to talking to you again here in the near future. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yep, thank you for having me.
And thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, don't forget, like and subscribe. We need you. We need your subscribes. Yep. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.